Hope you're all well. Since my last video, we've still had rain pretty much every day, and it's proving for a really difficult start to the grazing season. We haven't been able to get any cows out over the past week as it's still pretty wet, so we've still got plenty in the sheds. And the ones that we have got out, which is mainly the young stock, I've had to go on to daily moves rather than every 48 hours. So it's causing me a bit more work, but it's just meaning that I'm stopping them making too much of a mess in the paddocks. In this video, I'll explain how and why we mob graze our livestock. If you've got any questions, whack them in the comment section below this video, and if there's enough, I'll make a video in the future answering each question. But for now, let's get to it. So I'm just going to move this lot now onto their new allocation. So, battery off. Water tank emptied. And moved. And tumble wheels rolling. Now, a lot of people think that grazing is about utilisation, but I'd far sooner leave a paddock looking like this than like this. In 3 or 4 weeks' time, you probably won't notice much difference between that and that, but the difference comes if we have any period of adverse weather. If the rain suddenly switched off and didn't come back for months like it has been doing in this country in the previous couple of years, this paddock is going to grow far more grass than that one. And that's because the soil is being protected by the mat of long grass, keeping it protected from the sun and retaining moisture. There's another reason why this paddock is going to grow more grass than this paddock, and that is because of this. So what I'm aiming to do is graze a third, leave a third, and trample a third into the ground, as opposed to skinning the grass right off at ground level and letting it start from scratch. Now, a paddock that's left like this is going to regrow and reach this level far quicker than a paddock that is grazed down to something a bit more like that. And that's because we're leaving plenty of leaf behind, which is immediately going to start photosynthesizing again, pumping carbon into the soil, transferring it with soil life, and allowing for the grass to start regrowing. This paddock, however, can't start photosynthesizing again quickly, so it relies upon its roots to get it growing again. This causes a percentage of the roots to die back. This paddock's roots have remained completely intact because the plant can still photosynthesize. And when your period of adverse weather, such as a drought, comes along, your grass with healthy roots is always going to grow better than the grass where the root mass is depleted. So that is part of the reason why I carefully graze our livestock, leaving a good residual behind, keeping things growing and keeping the cattle happy. And it does work, because last summer during a drought our farm stayed green right into August. It is, however, quite a lot of work. So it's 6:30 in the morning. I've popped out to the fields a bit earlier than usual. It was really wet last night, so I just wanted to get the cows moved on to their new paddocks. In 48 hours, they've taken the grass down from this to that. Now, we had an absolutely torrential night of rain, and the cows have jigged up the ground a little bit, but I bet you come back, if we have a week of growy weather, in a week's time, you won't even notice the mess they've made in here. They haven't gone in deep, it's just they've poached the surface up a bit in places. So, it's about a week later. We haven't had warm, growy weather. We've had rain, as I mentioned previously in this video, but you can see the grass is regrowing and you can barely even notice the poaching. But hopefully the little bit that they have jigged up on the surface will stimulate the natural seed bank that's already in the soil to wake up a bit and start increasing our sward diversity in these permanent pastures. So that hopefully they look something a bit more like this. Happy cows. Now, I'm going to keep them on daily moves for the minute with larger than usual allocations, as once again it is raining. So they are getting through the grass a bit quicker than I would like for the time of year. But as I said, we've still got cows in the shed, so we're able to protect the grass we have. We've got plenty of silage, so they're not in an immediate rush to get out as much as I'd like to get them out. And that should just allow a bit of recovery time for this to all catch right back up. So for now, I'm going to keep these cows moving every day, try not to make too much of a mess, and hopefully we'll get the others out before long. Now, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but going back to the constant rain every day, it has meant we haven't been able to mob up our sheep properly yet, so we're a bit behind on that. But I have got the group of replacement ewe lambs tightened up and on 48-hour moves. We were originally planning on putting the ewes with single lambs straight out here, but there's just a huge amount of grass and it's still cold, so we don't want the ewes having this massive intake of grass and risking them going down with mastitis. So we're using next year's replacement ewe lambs as a lawnmower. They're just taking the top off, and then in a couple of weeks, once it's regrown, the ewes and the singles will come over and start grazing it for the year. These are on 2-day moves, and due to the shape of the field, I'm not grazing them in my usual pie-shaped wedges, but instead I'm strip grazing them lengthways up the field. So you might be thinking this field looks like a bit of a mess, and that's basically because it is. In reality, it's not a mess. It is just really diverse. We've got absolutely all sorts growing in here. You've got chicory, there's some mustard there, you've got rye, you've got your grasses, white clovers, vetches, there's a bit of phacelia there. There is a few docks as well, but I think the sheep will graze them out slowly. And most of that diversity has been carried over from the summer cover crop we grew in this field last year. And that diversity has persisted because to establish this herbal ley, we just direct drilled it straight into summer cover crop without spraying it off. So you can just about make out the rows of herbal ley that have been drilled in here. And it does look a bit of a mess, but this is sort of showing what a world without glyphosate would look like. And things can be made to work. To make moving this bunch quicker, I'm using my 3-in-1 reels that I built. And that reel allows me to roll up all 3 of these wires at the same time instead of having to do each one individually. And they're water troughs attached to 300 meters of blue pipe that I'm just moving along the top of the field every new paddock they go into. And you can see we've started mobbing up some of the ewes and lambs, and we probably will add another 50 odd sheep into this drove sometime this week, but we haven't yet, as the fields have been so wet and it's just pretty miserable really. But we do need to add to them because there is plenty of sheep food out here. If you thought that was useful or enjoyed it, give it a like, subscribe if you fancy it, and if you've got any questions, pop them below. I'll try and get them answered. Cheers.